we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! So, again, I love dragons, and when I was a child, I grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh! I was about 10 years old when Yu-Gi-Oh! First came out, so I was in the right age group when it was targeting the American version. And personally, when I first saw this card, I was like, oh my god, that's an amazing looking card. I do not have the original version, like how I have the original Blue Eyes, but I loved Red Eyes. I thought it was fun. Even though most people were running around with their Blue Eyes, I ran around with Red Eyes, because I was the hipster. So, this video is going to be really long, because there's so much to talk about. Like, there's a lot of little details, and Kazuki Takahashi's writing, the characters it resembles, the cards that affect these cards, the differences and similarities between them. So I'm probably gonna break this video into multiple parts because, again, while Eastern and Western, I had to do a lot of research. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for years, and I was kind of always fascinated on the idea, and I've been pretty much made a deck using dragons. As you can see, it's kind of a red-eye support deck, red-eye deck. So the thing is, what kind of deck, or what kind of differences do these things have? So, where's the differences? Well, I think that one of the most prominent differences that I love using as an example is something like Infernal Fire Blast and Burst Dream. Both cards are very similar, but very different in what they do. Both prevent your monster from attacking and activate it, but both of them do different effects. Infernal Fire Blast deals in the attacking base damage of the monster of the Red Eyes, 24. So pretty much most of its effects are useful is if your opponent has a monster you can't bypass, you can't destroy. Your monster has like Shadow Spell or Spellbinding Circle on it, so it can't attack, so you might as well do some damage, or the attack of your monster has been decreased, so you want to deal as much damage as possible. Things like that. Now, what this does is that it just destroys all monsters on your opponent's side of the field. Some may think, oh, I do some more damage. But honestly, this one is a lot better. This one just straight up destroys monsters. It doesn't matter what the attack of the monster is. It doesn't matter how many they have. So let's say for example, Pendulum Summoning. Pendulum Summoning is coming out. So let's say someone just does a mass Pendulum Summoning. They got all their monsters out. And you might be thinking, oh, well, I'm screwed. They get a Blue Eyes out. They activate this. Bang. That Pendulum Summoning, gone. All those monsters are just gone. So that is pretty much guaranteed value of destroying cards. Because in the end, when you destroy cards, that has a lot more value played to it than just simply dealing damage. Oh, wrong card. That has a lot more value than just dealing damage. Dealing damage, in the end, just, okay, I can stall. Because there are times where I am down to like 600 life points, and I managed to deal like 5,000 damage in one turn. I managed to win because I managed to pull up a crazy combo, because I managed to destroy all their primary cards. They couldn't do anything. There was just dead hands at times. This card pretty much makes sure they got their dead hand. They're summoning monsters, they're prepping up for a big summon, or like they go through all this effort to get a big monster. Boom, activate this, it's gone. It's gone. And most people will be like, oh, I'm going to set Mirror Force and Magic Summoner, expecting them to attack. But if you activate this, that monster is destroyed, those monsters are destroyed, and you pretty much just get guaranteed value. Great. So, what other similarities and differences do they have? Well, pretty much two things is these cards. Red Eyes Darkness Metal, and this card counts as a Red Eyes. Even though this is pretty much a staple of all dragons, it's still a Red Eyes. Red Eyes is part of the main meta. Awesome. And then there's Azure Eyes. Similar effects. Both can special summon monsters from the graveyard. Has to be dragon type. But this one is a little bit more flexible. Well, technically this one is better at stats, and even then its beginning effect is a lot better. It prevents all dragon types from being targeted or affected by effects. So your opponent's like, oh, I'll just activate Tribute to the Doom my next turn to destroy it. Nope, denied. And it can only bring back normal monsters from the from the graveyard. So pretty much it's made to bring this guy out. Pretty much that's its main course. Well, this one can use your hand or your graveyard. So one strategy I love using personally is bringing this guy out. This guy is very fun to use, especially with Red Eyes. I just keep Red Eyes out, keep him alive as long as possible, preferably in defense mode so Mirror Force won't destroy it, and then I just keep bringing this guy out and keep on attacking. No matter what my opponent will summon, this guy will destroy it. Why? Because when this card is destroyed by bounce into the graveyard, destroy the monster that destroyed it. So that is fantastic. So for the Red Eyes, there's a lot more support behind it. But that's kind of it. This is more of a support deck. This deck is meant to just kind of bring out your big boss monsters, or to pretty much bring out the big guys. While someone like this card is pretty much meant to bring out the boss. This guy is a support as well, but his main focus is to bring out this, who is the boss. This is the boss of your deck. And that is one of the main focus. One of the main differences. This Blue Eyes is mostly the main card. Everything in the deck is supporting Blue Eyes, while Red Eyes tends to be the supporter. One other example that I'm going to give is something that affects like Dragon Shrine. Dragon Shrine, you typically just send in a legend egg, and yeah, you just send in a legend white stone, and you get this to your hand. Or pretty much you can send a Blue Eye to the grave, send a white stone to the grave, and then send it to your hand, which you can then use trade in to draw more cards and other things like that. Well, for this one, you might think, well, what can I do for a Red Eyes? What kind of abilities can I use? So by sending in a normal, I can send in an effect. So I send in my Red Eyes. I then send in Wyvern. So I can then, so there you go. I have pretty much the ability to special summon my Red Eyes, guaranteed. Seems more simple, and it is. For Blue Eyes, you have to kind of go more out there to do all this, but yeah, so essentially for Dragon Shrine, you can argue that Dragon Shrine is essentially just arguably just an over fancy pot of greed at times. But again, there's more flexibility in what you can do. Let's say, for example, you have Kaiba Man in your hand, which I do not have Kaiba Man. I have it. No, I do not have that on me right now. So for Kaiba Man, you normal summon Kaiba Man, and because of Dragon Shrine, you have this in your hand. You sacrifice Kaiba Man, you get him out. Or you use the trade-in. Get rid of the Red Eyes, draw 2 cards. 2 for 1. Woo. And because this card was essentially in your hand, you're basically just thinning out your deck so you can get what you want. Everything else is just filler. But that's kind of it. When you look at like the 2 eggs, these 2 are very different. Technically, this is the Kaiba Man of the Red Eyes. You sacrifice this, you special summon 1 from your hand, even though these both are basically the babies of the one. However, this one, when it goes to the graveyard, it gets your hand. This one you sacrifice special. So even though technically art-wise those are very similar and theme-wise those are very similar, and effect-wise this is close to the Kaiba Man. So what other kind of differences are there? Tons. Blue Eyes, there's only 1 fusion. For Red Eyes, there's a crap ton. This is the only fusion one I have. And there's the Meteor Dragon for that. There's also Metal Dragon but really, the only ones that that Blue Eyes has is Blue Eyes Ultimate and Blue Eyes Shiny. And even then, Red Eyes has their own Darkness version. And actually, what's really fun is, one really fun thing is, the Blue Eyes version, ultimately better. Has higher tag, the effect is the same, and on top of that, it cannot be affected by spells, traps, or monster effects. So, and you could choose to negate them. So you can equip it with your own cards. You can do other things with it. So that is very fun. So like, let's say you attack and someone activates Magic Cylinder. Negate Magic Cylinder. Well, for this one, it just gains the attack buff. But where the difference is, the darkness is a lot easier to get out. All you have to do is sacrifice the red eyes. For the blue eye shining, which I don't have, you have to sacrifice an ultimate, which I do not have. So there's a lot of differences. So far, let's see how long this video is gonna be. 10 minutes in, and we're still on the cards and everything, and their effects and their differences, their themes and the styles. And I think that that's probably one of the more things to focus on, because again, it's mostly focused on the card game, and let's focus on the feels. So what else is there that has the two for the card effect wise that are very different? Well, Red Eyes alone is very ineffective. It's a 2 sacrifice monster with only 24 attack. Summon Skull, which you can use to bring this guy out, has 25 attack, and is only 5 stars. Or it's 6 stars, but that only requires 1 sacrifice. So higher attack and less effort to get out. While lower defense, the only time you're really gonna have to worry about a high attack and defense point is when you're pretty much gonna need to use both of them. And even then, most times you're gonna switch to defense mode. That pretty much means that the guy has a monster with super high attack points, or something along those lines. So very few times is having high abode very necessary. Well, Blue Eyes, same sacrifice as Red Eyes, but everything about it is better. Higher attack, higher defense points. Pretty much even the 8 stars allows you to use trade, while you can't use it for Red Eyes. While there are other cards out there that do support with the Red Eyes, just moving this, grabbing this, such as Champion's Vigilance. This can do on 7 or up normal monsters. So both can be affected by it, but in the end, Blue Eyes is just straight up better than Red Eyes at almost every turn when it comes to the individual things. When you take away their support and you take away what they can do together, Blue Eyes just beats Red Eyes at every turn. There's no reason for you to select Red Eyes if you had to select Blue Eyes. So the question is, where does that come from? Where does that matter? Well, in part 2, I'm going to talk more about the themes and the work that Kazuki Takahashi put into it. So, thank you for watching this part 1. Join me in part 2.